basics, the first thing we always, on most all data screens, we want to tell you that what you see on your data screen is a function of your preferences. And again, depending on your role in the organization that uses Student Manager, you may or may not be able to set those yourself. But on the system preferences, there is a whole set of options as to what you turn on, how you enable things. Actually, some of the elements in here, like the pay options, what payment types you use, is set up in the payments options screen. Some of the things you can do in a class to register a student in a class depends obviously upon how you have the course set up. So again, it is a team effort between preferences, the course, and the student to get to a registration. So all roads lead to registrations. In Student Manager 8 and in 7, there are multiple ways to get a registration. Probably the normal, most common is to look up a student, hit the Add Registration button on the name screen. However, you can also look up a course and hit Add Registrations from the course screen. And then finally, you can look up a registration. And that is, if you have an existing registration you want to look up, there is a quick button on the registration screen. And I'm going to roll to Student Manager, and I'm going to launch the demo. So we're logging into Student Manager. We'll get through here. I wanted to get to the look here. Cancel, no. Okay. Look up name. The most common is you look up the student, you find the student, and you hit Add Registration. Okay, that's the normal, and obviously if this is a new student, you'd hit Add, create the record, hit Add Registration. All right. Second approach is to look up a class. So you can look up a class, ACE 101B. You can look up a class, go over to Add Edit Regis, and then it will take you to any existing registration, but hitting the Add button will then add a new name into this class. So you can do it from that way. Now, the other way is that if you have a need to edit an existing registration, the Lookup Registration option allows you to look up a name. Who was that? Dole, Bob Dole. And what it does is immediately puts you into edit mode on the last registration that was entered for the student that you pick. Now, the advantage of this approach, and this isn't adding, but like in editing and maintaining registrations, if you are working with edits and transfers and grades and adjustments and pay on existing registrations, staying in that edit registration side, once we deal with the one person and close it, we go right back to the next lookup. Okay, Smith. I want to go to Mr. Smith. Okay, I'm done with Smith. I want to go to Mr. Jones. So that you can navigate quickly between the most current registration for the different people that you're navigating through. Okay, so 3 different ways to look up a registration or to deal with registrations. And there's actually another. There is a mass import option or a speed registration entry option, and that's TBCL, to be covered later in the webinar, so stay with us. Unlike the names, much of the information in the registration fills in automatically. So, however, things like tracking code, that is, again, really critical. We talk about this in marketing. We talk about this in the basic best practices, is always try to capture the tracking code on a registration. So again, I think it's probably the single most valuable marketing code out there. And again, there is a report to monitor the results. And I'm going to actually roll to Manager to show you that, because under Reports, Statistics, Tracking Code, that will give you the report that will report on the tracking code and tell you what promotions brought in your students into your classes. All right, status field. This is one, if you want to use it, you can. It allows you to define a status of a registrant. A lot of people will use that on like conference programs to distinguish between a guest, a speaker, a panelist. And again, all of these items, of course, with the little plus next to them means you can define the labels for those. All right. Course must be completed by and the course must completed on. Expiration date and the completed fields are probably special handling fields, probably more used for like online class programs. So probably a dance class wouldn't be necessarily worried about. But if you had an online class and that it was open for X amount of days and you want to record when did the student complete this online class, you've got a couple of date fields to work with that. Again, that's part of the preferences. If you have those turned off, you won't be seeing those on your screen. CEUs, hours, and credits. Again, ACEware uses a salvation by grace approach in that by registering in the class, you automatically assign the full hours, credits, CEUs to that registration. What you do is remove those CEUs and hours from the student's credits if they don't make the grade. And of course, you can do that by editing the registration itself. But alternatively, and this is actually my recommendation on a class, is that what you do is you look up the class, and then from the student list on the class, you can bring up a browse window. Now, note up at the top left, you see the student's name and you see the note and the email. But, and I'll get out of this view, you can actually go through the hours and the CEUs, 0.8 CEUs, hours is 8.0, and maybe their grade, well, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. If we were to do letter grade, they got a B. This person got only 4 hours, or 0.4, or maybe you're going to do 0 CEUs, and we're going to say only 4 hours attended, and his grade would be a fail. So again, you can edit the entire course list, grades, hours, CEUs, and credits, right from the roster view. When you close that roster view, if you watch in the upper right-hand corner, when I close the view of this roster, you'll see a message that says updated to records. And so that's the most efficient way to deal with mass editing grade CEUs hours. Certificate date, again, can be used to indicate when you print a certificate. The report tool has the ability to stamp this date when you actually literally print a certificate, so it allows for tracking. Middle of the registration screen. I hope people use these, but they basically are special tools that allow you to get a quick reference to other things that are going on in a registration. And I haven't honestly tried this in a while with 8, and we're still working on some of the new release features. So let's give that a shot. Matthew, you ready? So we're going to go to a registration and say pay info. The pay info should show you all of the payments tied to this one registration. So we can see that there was a billing and then there was a check payment. You could say, well, I want to go back to the class. I want to go back to the course that's the ACEware conference and maybe look up some information. So we click on this and we're able to go clear back to the course, look at the description, look at all the fees, look at the instructor detail. Ditto, again, I can actually go to the name. If I said, well, I'm dealing with Charles and he says, I moved. I'm no longer on Erickson Street. I am now on Dyer Road, or I'm no longer on Dyer, I'm on Tuttle Creek Boulevard, 10386 TUTCRBLVD. You can do the save on that, and again, stay right from the registration screen. So the C also is your opportunity to do cross-selling. When you're setting up courses, and I think we covered that in the course side, there is the ability to set up on a class. Now, I doubt that we have any C also records, no related courses available. But when you're on a course, in the catalog information area under prerequisites, you could put in links from this class, ACE 300, the ACEware conference, to any other related courses. So if you had a beginning sculpture class, that you might also be doing a tour of a museum that has a large sculpture display, you could say related class, tour of the Acme Gallery. And on the tour of the Acme Gallery, you'd put a related course, beginning sculpture. So again, that would allow you to cross-sell, try to get the students, say, would you also like to take the tour of the gallery, which also covers sculpture? So reg code, miscellaneous code are fields that you can modify. You can validate both. The who paid, paid by. This is handled automatically by the system. If the payer name is the same as a student, it automatically puts a P there. If the payer name is the firm, which is the same firm as the students, it puts in an F. And if it's neither of the two, it'll put in O for other. You can edit that, but if you're trying to analyze in a business program, are most of my participants paying for these classes themselves through their own money, checkbook, credit card, or are they being paid by a firm, or they're paid by third party? Maybe you're billing these out to a workforce agency or a employment training agency. This is a way for you to help track that.